Hey guys, in light of the fact that UFC 248 goes down tonight at 3 AM, thought we'd talk a little bit of MMA. Going to do some predictions for the main event and the co-main event for UFC 248. So, as many people know, in the main event of this card, we've got Romero versus Israel Adesanya, which is a very compelling fight. So we are going to get onto that. But first, I wanted to cover the fight that's going to come before that, which is the women's strawweight championship fight between Joanna, I hope I'm saying that correctly, and Zhang Weili, the newly crowned champion. So, in terms of breaking this fight down, I just want to say I'm really glad to see Joanna back at strawweight. I think it is where she belongs. I think it's where she's done her best work, and I think this is going to be a very, very interesting fight. I think it's, in many ways, it's like the puncher versus the volume fighter, really, because Zhang's not lost since her first professional fight, and the majority of her fights have been finishes. So she's been tearing through people in the UFC. I mean, she's not beaten, I wouldn't say she's beaten the quality of opposition that Joanna has, but I'd say that Zhang is definitely up there as far as, you know, she ran through Jessica Andrade. But an interesting point about this fight, this division in general, it's interesting that they didn't do the Namajunas-Andrade rematch, because I do think that Namajunas is still the best fighter in this division. I do think she's the best fighter in this division. She got beaten by Andrade, and let's not forget that Joanna comfortably beat Andrade. Like, comfortably. She went to the scorecards, but she won every round in that fight. So she's comfortably beaten Jessica Andrade, who beat Rose. So MMA math doesn't work, but it shows you that potentially all of them can beat each other. So I think what it is that Rose made a mistake in that fight. I don't think that would have happened very often. She was going for a Kimura from the clinch, which is an extremely low percentage move, and then that allowed Andrade to do that horrific looking wrestling throw that sent Namajunas flying through the air, lands on her head, and then is knocked out from that. And then Zhang just runs through Andrade in China in a fight that Andrade, quite frankly, was supposed to win, I think, by all expert opinion. So I think this is going to be an interesting fight. I think that a lot of people are leaning towards Zhang because of the hype, and the UFC obviously wants to promote her because it opens up a new marketing avenue, shall we say, in China. The UFC is going to want to promote Zhang. Additionally, she's a more exciting fighter than Jędrzejczyk. I mean, that's not to say Jędrzejczyk's not interesting, but she sort of throws a high volume, throws a lot of leg kicks and straight shots, and just works her way to decisions. Whereas Zhang, whilst being quite a technical striker, does have a tendency to just come in there and swing. And I think that's what the UFC do like, and we've seen that time and time again over the years. I almost see this fight a little bit like GSP versus Hendricks all those years ago. And I think people are sort of split down the middle, and it depends what your preference is. Because I think in that fight, it went to a decision. I could easily see this fight going to a decision. And Hendricks did a lot more damage on GSP. However, it's very arguable that GSP won the fight when it comes to points, won the rounds, got the takedowns in the key areas, the key times, shall we say. GSP's fight management was better, and I personally scored that 3 rounds to 2 for GSP, because we do have a round by round system. That's how fights are supposed to be scored. But if you're in the sort of damage camp and you like to look at the faces and see who's actually inflicted more of a hurt on the other person, then I think that Hendricks will definitely be the winner, and I could see this fight going a bit like that. I think Zhang is very capable of catching Joanna Jędrzejczyk. I do. I think that she will catch her. I think that will happen potentially in the first couple of rounds. I think that she'll definitely have Joanna in some trouble, but I think people forget how good Joanna is. Like, she lost a fight to Rose is an incredible fighter. And I would like to see Rose versus Zhang. That's the match that I think potentially should have been made, but I don't know what Rose is doing, to be totally honest with you. But I think that Jędrzejczyk is going to add up the shots. She's going to throw a lot of shots. They're going to add up over, a period of 25 minutes. And it is going to start to look like Joanna's winning the rounds. I think Zhang's front leg's going to get chewed up by some serious leg kicks. like I say, I think Zhang will catch her early. But my personal opinion is that Joanna will recover from that. And I think that we're going to end up with... I think Joanna will win 3 rounds to 2, but Zhang will land the better shots. I think that is what's going to happen. I truly believe that. I think Joanna's going to land her Muay Thai. I think Zhang may land... I think Joanna needs to be very careful in the clinch, because Zhang can land knees from there and elbows. But I can definitely see that Zhang is a good enough striker to catch Jacek, and I can see her maybe getting a knockdown or 2 in, the first round, and I think she'll land good shots throughout the fight. But I think Joanna will end up throwing more volume, and I think it will be too much for Zhang over 5 rounds. So I'm going to go for prediction of this fight. It's very difficult because it's like Zhang could finish her, and I could eat my words, and I'm very happy to be wrong on that if it is a more exciting fight. I mean, I think it is going to be a bit of a war. But I think Joanna wins by split decision for me. And I think it's just that Zhang will do well as far as catching her with punches, but I don't see... I think Joanna's just a much better technical striker for me. Just a much better technical striker. And I think we'll see that over the 5 rounds. And I think there'll be more volume from Joanna. I don't see the fight going to the ground. Neither of them really like the ground. It could end up in the clinch, where again, Joanna will sort of knee the legs and just do the ugly shit to win the fight. So I do think that Joanna takes it by split decision and becomes the new champion, which leaves the division in a very interesting position, because we've already seen Joanna versus Rose twice. So, I don't know, do we do Joanna versus Andrade again? That was, a fight that Joanna just won very easily on points. I don't know, it's going to leave the division in an interesting place, but that is my prediction. I could be wrong, it's just my opinion, but I do think, based on the evidence that we have, Zhang's not fought good enough opponents for me to sit here and say that she will catch Joanna and be able to knock her out. I think she lands some good shots throughout the fight, but I don't think she'll do enough. Joanna takes the title and the new. Right, now we're going to move on to the main event. Yoel Romero versus Israel Adesanya. Now it's just an incredible fight. Like, people have been talking about it for ages. I think what's interesting about this one is that everyone's talking about it as sort of a grappler versus striker matchup. I've heard a lot about grappler versus striker when I see some comments on this match, but it's just really not. Like, if you look at the way that Romero fights, he's not used wrestling in that many of his fights. I mean, he used it to devastating effect against Machida, and you could see that he had very good wrestling against Chris Weidman when he sort of tripped him and then tossed him onto his back. Like, that was absolutely incredible. So you can tell that his wrestling isn't at an elite level, but he's not a transitional MMA wrestler. He's not someone that does that. He's not someone that can transition. He's almost a counter wrestler, in that when Weidman he gets his takedowns when other people try to take him down. Like, that whole exchange with Weidman was when Weidman initiated the takedown. So I don't necessarily think the takedowns are going to play a massive part in this. I think he could potentially get 1 takedown on Adesanya throughout the course of the fight. But I think what we've seen about Romero that's more devastating than anything else is the knockout ability, and it comes from the athleticism, because the athleticism is not something that someone can train for. Like, you can train for someone setting you up, you can train for feints, you can train for someone having a big shot, but you can't train for someone like what he did against Chris Weidman when he just leapt through the air, and then again against Luke Rockhold when he just covered distance so quickly to throw that overhand left. That's not something that you can train for. It's just not. Like, someone who can cover distance like that and leap through the air and knee you in the head, like, it's not something you can prepare for in the gym. It's just not practical, and there's so few human beings that can do that. However, saying this, I do think that the people Romero has knocked out, I don't think any of them have the movement or the striking knowledge of an Israel Adesanya. And I think this is potentially the key to the fight, in that Israel keeps very good control of the distance. He's got good jabs, he's got sort of strikes from all ranges, but he's mainly a long-range striker. But he's got kick. He can throw a kick to the head from both. He can throw kicks to the head with both legs. He can throw them from different angles. He's great on the pivot. So against Whittaker, he literally pivoted away and almost looked like his weight was completely unbalanced. Threw a left hook, knocked him out, although the ref still allowed it to carry on for another round. So I think Israel's definitely got the advantage when it comes to distance striking. So what this fight comes down to, and I think this is symbolic of modern MMA, in that it's not really about grappling anymore. A lot of fighters are just pretty much just strikers with good takedown defense. If you look at the top 10 of like most top 10s, that's what the majority of fighters are. They're all just, a lot of them are just strikers with good wrestling defense. And that's what Yoel Romero essentially is. Like, he's obviously got a different situation. He's able to keep the distance because people fear his offensive wrestling, but he's not ever used it in MMA to a transitional effect where he sort of shoots, you know, ducks, throws a jab or fakes a jab and then ducks under for the double leg and then transitions to a single. Like, that's not really his game. His game is more, he uses his wrestling to keep the opponent guessing. He uses it in counter when they try to take him down, and he never gets out-wrestled by his opponent. And then he just uses all of that to deliver incredible shots, along with his athleticism. So, I think it's symbolic of MMA that unless you're a Khabib, grappling don't really work anymore to the same level that it did, because everyone's just learned how to defend against it. And this is what we're seeing. It's kind of sad, but it does mean that this will be an exciting stand-up fight. So what this fight comes down to, went off on a bit of a tangent there, because that's a total another conversation. What this fight comes down to is, can Romero land that shot on Adesanya? And I would think maybe 2 years ago, I'd be thinking, yeah, he could knock him out. He could land a knee, or he could land a big punch, or he could, you know, do something, or he covers the distance and hits Adesanya with a left hook. But I don't see it happening. Adesanya's on such a roll at the moment. The UFC is behind him. Romero's coming off 2 losses, so, you know, Adesanya's obviously called him out, but I don't really know why he's got on the shot. I think what you've got to look at with Adesanya is, against Gastelum, he's able to roll with shots quite well. Like, he sort of backpedals and slides to the side in a way where shots can't have the full impact on him. And because he always fights on the pivot as well, it's very hard to land a clean shot. So I think that Adesanya is going to control the distance in this fight, just like Costa did against Romero. I don't necessarily see him finishing Romero. Like, no one's ever done it before. I don't see Adesanya being the first to do it. So I do not think he'll finish Romero. However, I do think he'll control the distance for long periods of the fight. He'll have to be quite cautious of the power, especially early on. But I think he'll hit Romero with kicks to the body. He'll be jabbing his face. And I think he's really going to beat Romero up here. And I think, you know, age catches up to everyone eventually. It doesn't look like it with Romero when he comes through with his Greek god body and doing backflips through the air. But I think this is the fight where we say that age has caught up to him and he won't quite be the same fighter. I mean, I wouldn't say that to his face, but I think age will catch up to Romero here. I think Adesanya kicks him to the leg, kicks him to the body, lands some straight shots to the head. I think Romero will maybe land one shot throughout the entire fight, or he has Adesanya in trouble, maybe in sort of the 3rd round, like Romero tends to do that. He sort of takes it easily, lulls you into a false sense of security, and then boom, just explodes on you. And I can see that happening, but I don't think it'll be enough. I think Adesanya controls the distance early on. He'll avoid the big shots, and then I think he really beats Romero up late. I think it'll be a very convincing performance. I think it's going to be a 50-45 unanimous decision to Israel Adesanya. And I think this is going to continue the UFC's hype train on him. Once again, I don't think he stops Joel, but I think that is the way that the fight's going to go. Joel's face is going to be a mess by the end of this fight. Again, it's just my opinion. I could be very wrong about it, but this is the way that I see it. So, thanks for listening, guys. If you like this video, please click the like button and subscribe to the channel. I will be back with some more football videos and hopefully some MMA videos next week. But thank you very much for listening, and please share your opinion in the comments. Thank you.